First thing we're going to do is we're going to assign our autonomous system number. We're using 65,000. 65,000 is part of a 4-byte block of private autonomous system numbers. You would use 65,000 and numbers within that block to do things like peer with partners on private WAN links, to redistribute routes back and forth between partner corporations, supply chain corporations, things like that. 65,000 does not exist in the public internet routing table. It's a private autonomous system number. You can look up the RFCs on that if you want to list a complete list of private autonomous system numbers. There's a couple 2-byte and there's a 4-byte block. So best practice for designing BGP is to always have it tied to a logical interface. And the reason why you do this is because you don't want the IP changing or something happening that's going to cause this to go down or to go away. If there's like a cable failure or something that causes the interface IP to disappear, loopbacks are always up all the time. They can't be shut down. This is the best practice if you're peering with an ISP, for instance. So we're going to say the remote AS is 65,000. This makes this an IBGP connection. Okay, that is very important. The next thing we want to do is set up multi-hop, which allows us to basically multi-hop across, so many different connections. And we're going to set our update source as loopback 0. Now notice that since it's an IBGP peer, you don't need the multi-hop command. I don't know if many of you saw that and got that, but you don't need that command with an IGP peer. So address family, IPv4. We're going to add our neighbor in here, and we're going to activate it. This means we're speaking IPv4. Okay, this is there by default, but you typically don't see it. You only see it when you turn off, like we did here at the very top. You'll see we turned off IPv4 unicast default, and that's because we need to do that in order to put this VPN v4. So this VPN v4 is very important. What this says is that we are carrying MPLS routes for multiple VRFs across this BGP connection. So please separate these routes by extended community strings, because if you don't send the extended community strings, which are the route targets, we won't be able to put the routes into the proper VRF table. So that's the reason why you have to turn off the default IPv4 unicast, because you're doing VPN v4, and then you have to add this IPv4 section in here, which is nothing extra. This stuff is on by default, but that's why the neighbor statements aren't enough by themselves, which is why that shows up. The next thing, let's go up a little bit. The next thing we're going to do is add the actual VRFs. So we have one VRF for IPv4 for company A. Redistribute, we're redistributing OSPF2, right? And it's OSPF2 VRF company A. That's the full OSPF instance. And we're done here. That's all we have to put. The next thing we're doing is creating one for company B. We're adding OSPF version instance 3 VRF company B. That is your complete BGP setup on both sides, and this handles all the route redistribution for you. So now if I do show IP BGP, here's our show IP BGP neighbors, and you can actually see there's a neighbor for 5.5.5.5. It shows that it's doing VPN v4 across it, and you can see that for VPN v4 it has some statistics there. These statistics you might find interesting. It shows you that's where most of our routes are. There's nothing else going across except for the VPN routes, which you'll probably find very interesting. Then your typical BGP overboard. Most of the stuff is not important unless you're troubleshooting. If you show IP route, if you show BGP, sorry, summary, you will see that we have one IBGP peer, and there's the link is up, the adjacency is up, and with that, you're basically MPLS is yours. That's basically how it works. And again, to the end user, such as let's say company B, which we haven't looked at yet. There's all his inter-area routes. You can ping any of them. And if you were looking at this, you would not know that there was any BGP involved. Notice they don't show up as EX routes, which is very interesting, because you would initially think that redistributed routes would show up as EX1 or 2 routes. They don't. That might be one of the things that might shock you at first look. There's no E2 routes or E1 routes. They show up as IA. So that is MPLS for you in a nutshell. And I hope if you guys have questions, you'll post them to this YouTube channel. And come visit us at exiletv.com for more information. And also on exiletv.com, I'll also post the router configs and the drawing, as well as if you go to www.techinvasion.net, there is a written article version of this which you might find useful as well. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you guys next time.